from the past.
Please listen carefully.
CoCo.
Welcome to the CoCo Crew Podcast. A delicious adventure into the world of retro computing news and information. Featuring the Tandy Color Computer.
Hey, you got your CoCo 3 yet?
CoCo.
All right. Welcome, CoCo Cruisers, CoCo Maniacs. This is John Linville. You are listening to episode 69 of the CoCo Crew Podcast. And I'm joined here with my regular crew of co-hosts, Mr. Neil Blanchard. Hello, Neil.
Hello, everyone.
Mike Rowan. Hello, Mike.
Hello to all.
And Mr. Boise Pete. Hello, Mr. Boise.
Good evening, everyone.
All right. Moving right along. Let's see. It's the end of the month of February. CoCo Fest. Well, I would say it's supposed to be just another month or two away, I guess, or a little more than a month away, except that has slipped away. It's not going to be happening at the original scheduled time. Get to that a little bit more in a bit, but alas, so CoCo Fest is not on the menu for April. We do still have Tandy Assembly. That is approximately 7 months away. Definitely looking forward to that. We'll have the CoCo Mania coming up at Tandy Assembly. Haven't talked a lot about that. We still won't talk about it too much, but it's coming, I assure you. So, gentlemen, what have you been up to? Anybody working on anything cool? Any cool projects or whatever? Neil, you doing any new woodworking?
Yep, still doing some woodworking here. Working on Gamesters still and those risers for the monitors. Almost have the prototype done on that.
Nice.
Cool.
Looking forward to seeing that, Neil.
Are you making it exactly, or are you going to deviate or customize, or?
It's going to be different from the original Tandy one, but I'm trying to make it so it'll work for pretty much all retro platforms that have, the where the computer is the keyboard, or the keyboard is the computer, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, gotcha. Yeah. Okay, great to hear. I'm working on a project.
Do tell.
Yeah.
That I'm having a blast with, and I'll be doing a video series on this, and hopefully that will be out shortly after or at least the first episode will be out shortly after the release of the podcast this month. But I have developed a system that allows you to connect your old Tandy dot matrix printers to your modern network, so all of your modern computers can print to it. And I've also set up an interface so that your color computer can print to all your printers on your modern network. So you can print from the CoCo to your laser printer or to your old DMP printer on the network using a Raspberry Pi and some interfacing. So I've learned a lot. It's been it's been fun. I've done a lot of programming in it. I've just been having a blast with it.
That is what I call the Lord's work.
Yeah, definitely.
Very cool. Very loud, but maybe not too bad.
Yeah.
Get your fingers all dirty, but very cool. Very cool.
That's a good use for those old dot matrix printers.
Somebody's got to
bring
put
them back
to
to life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool. Boise, anything for you?
Not CoCo wise.
Just life.
Yeah, just busy with life and other stuff.
Fighting the storm.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a lot here either. I picked up a couple of stray books on the Prolog programming language. There's a news item. You'll understand more when we get to that. But do you guys know anything about Prolog?
Other than the name, no.
Other than kind of what it is, but yeah, that's interesting.
It's I've been aware of it for a long time, but never really known much about it. It's always sort of stuck out there as, well, I should learn more about that. And kind of took a little interest recently, and it's kind of a weird language. It's in some ways, in many ways, it's more like a database, and it's almost like SQL where you're querying a database. The query language has a lot of patterns or whatever. It processes a list of data or whatever, and so it can find matches for what you're looking for or whatever. And so if you set up your database correctly, then it can solve weird problems for you. Like all the examples tend to start with the one of genealogy. And so you say, well, this person is this person's father, and blah, blah, blah. And you set up a bunch of those, and then you set up some queries and say, well, if somebody is somebody else's father, then they're your ancestor. And, so you put together all these relationships, and then you can solve, like, who was whose uncle and what. I don't know. Probably screwing up the example, but anyway, if you're the kind of person who likes to fiddle with oddball programming languages, you might think about Prolog, especially once we get to the news. So other than that, no new acquisitions for me. Yeah, that's pretty much it for me. So why don't we just call that an introduction, and we'll take a little break, and then we'll be back with our announcements.
Hey, I'm Howie Long. It wasn't too long ago that I was actually in your shoes, trying to decide if Radio Shack was the kind of company I wanted to be associated with. And what I found was a great group of people who work hard, love to compete, and are totally dedicated to serving their customers. I've been a member of several great teams on and off the football field, and this team works together like the best of them. See if you have what it takes to be a winning member of the Radio Shack team.
Since 1994, Cloud9 has made cool stuff for your color computer. Now Cloud9 is proud to announce the 2MB Triad Plus memory expansion board. The Triad Plus works in two ways. Purchase just the Triad Plus board to expand your color computer 3 from 128K to 512K of RAM. Or add the new Protector Plus MMU to access the full 2 megabytes of static RAM aboard the Triad Plus. And the Protector Plus MMU utilizes full buffering to protect your CPU. Unlike previous 2 megabyte memory expansions for the CoCo 3, the Triad Plus operates seamlessly without the need for special patches, configuration, or workarounds. Games like Donkey Kong Remix and Sierra Adventure games simply work without hassle. And the Triad Plus will reduce your CoCo's power consumption and heat generation. The Triad Plus and Protector Plus MMU, only from the innovative engineering of Cloud9. Cool stuff for your color computer. Visit cloud9tech.com for details.
All right, CoCo Cruisers, CoCo Maniacs, welcome back. Now it's time for announcements. Listening to the CoCo Crew Podcast. We are available on Twitter with the Twitter handle of @CoCo Crew Podcast. That's @CoCoCrewPodcast. If you're on descending tweets, feel free to tweet us, and we might be back. We also, of course, have a Facebook page for the CoCo Crew Podcast. And, of course, that's what it's called, the CoCo Crew Podcast, 4 separate words. So come and find the group, join up, maybe get a little news a little earlier, or even general CoCo discussions on our Facebook page. It'll be fine. Come and join up and check us out. See, we are a podcast, so we're available. Of course, we have our own RSS feed available at cococrew.org. Or you can get us through Apple Podcasts or Google Play as podcasts. Those are all for normal downloading of podcasts. And for streaming, we, of course, are available on Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. So however you like to get your podcasts, whether it's downloading them or streaming them, you should be able to find a way. And if for some reason we're not covering your favorite base, let us know, and we'll see if we can get available through some other means. For some time, we have been taking our audio podcast and doing a little transformation of it into a video. It's not great video, but it is something. You can see show notes in the background along with a little wavy voice pattern on the screen. Probably the biggest thing is that we make this available on YouTube, and YouTube does a pretty good job of adding subtitles. So if for some reason perhaps you're not a native speaker or otherwise could benefit from having subtitles listening, then you can check us out on YouTube and enjoy the podcast that way. Let's see, we are a member of the Throwback Network. This is a online list of other podcasts with similar themes, all mostly centered around, well, technology and our 80s culture, old computers, video games, that sort of thing. If you're caught up on the CoCo Crew Podcast and looking for something else to listen to, then we recommend you check out the Throwback Network. Also, we are available as a listing on the Game by Game Podcast Information Hub. This is also a list of similarly themed podcasts, in this case all with a home computer or old video game bent, all technology or whatever, certainly related to gaming. So again, if you're caught up with then we recommend that you check out the Game by Game Podcast Information Hub. Audio for the CoCo Crew Podcast is hosted by Cyber Ears. So if you ever need to host your own audio on the internet, whether it be for your business, your own podcast, for your church, your club, whatever you've got, we recommend that you check out Cyber Ears, where you will get your audio on your terms. If you want to reach out to the host of the CoCo Crew Podcast via email, we have a few addresses available for that. The first three reach all of the hosts: show, SHOW, at CoCoCrew.org, podcast, that's PODCAST, at CoCoCrew.org, or feedback, FEEDBACK, at CoCoCrew.org. Feel free to send email to any of those and reach all the hosts, whether you want to give feedback or ask them questions about the show, or tell us how much you like us or how much you dislike us, or complain about our choices of host discussion topics, or whatever you got.
Just say something.
Yeah, feel free to reach out. Let us know you're out there listening. We'll handle it most graciously and definitely welcome your email. If for some reason you want to reach out to just a single one of us, then we all are available with individual email addresses. I've got John, that's JOHN, at CoCoCrew.org, that's CoCoCrew.org. Of course, Neil is available as Neil, Neil. He's available as Mike, Mike. And Boise is available as Boise, Boysy. Each of those are at CoCoCrew.org. So, let your finger do the walking, something like that. Feel free to send some email if you want to talk to us, and we'll probably respond. All right, well, those are mostly our normal announcements. Normally here we break through our events in real life, but we've got a couple of special announcements here of contests. So these are kind of like in between. You don't have to really talk to humans here, but you might interact with other people. First, the link is for the 10th edition of the Basic 10-Liner Contest. This is a programming contest in the basic language, and there's a few variations on how you can use that, but the basic idea, so to speak, is for you to write something, useful and or performative, a game, in 10 lines of basic, who wrote the best one. And then they've got it broken down into a few different categories, different rules for, what counts and what kinds of things you can use and whatever. I'm not going to go through them. You can read it yourself, but the link is in the show notes. Let's see, the deadline for submissions, March 7th of 2021. And the award ceremony, which will occur in Saturday, April 10th, 2021 at NOMAM. Tried to look that up, and I think that's Not Only Marvelous Atari Machines is what NOMAM stands for, but unfortunately I don't have any better information as far as location, or I think it's in Germany. Anyway, the 10-liner contest is pretty well known in the retro computing world. If 10-line basic, they do crazy things that I don't quite get. It's kind of like programming in declarative languages or something. It's a brain bender. A lot of people seem to invent, and certainly something we all could be able to aspire to do. So give it your all. Show your CoCo pride. Make us all proud of your CoCo programming ability. I'm pretty sure you can find a category that will suit you. So, Godspeed. All right, so then the second option here, we've all got another, I would call it a programming contest. It says it's Parser Comp. Parser Comp is a competition for text-based games which use the text input and output parser system as the primary way of controlling the game. So basically interactive fiction. This is like, Zork or any of the old Infocom games. Parser competition page on itch.io, 10, see link section below. Well, that's straight copied from the probably started the link that I put in there. That text is copied from the link. Anyway, available from April 1st. From this point onwards, through to submission cutoff, it'll be possible to register. So that's May and June submission window open. So basically, after April 1st, you can submit your games. Then July will be when they're voting, and August 1st is when they'll announce results. So if you've been dying to write your interactive fiction game, your Zork-like game or whatever, this may be your time to do it. So I'd love to see some entrance here. A CoCo Fest game or something like that would be awesome. Or a Tandy Assembly one would be even better. If you've been hanging out looking for stuff to do, there's 2 different programming contests that you can participate in. Get off your keyboard or get on your keyboard and produce something for us. Entertain me. Well, that's the new links there. So we'll move on. We would normally be announcing the in-life event CoCo Fest 2021, which was scheduled for April 25th of 2021. Unfortunately, this has now been postponed with the date not. And so if you find the link in the show notes, it says, please consider helping us select our 2021 date. And if you click on that, it'll take you to the Facebook posting from Jim Brain on the CoCo Fest group, in which there's a link there. It'll take you out to Tandy List, and which will give you a collection of dates that you can vote on in your preferred order of what dates you'd like to see CoCo Fest move to. So the only real downside there is 2 of the dates. One of the dates is a week before Tandy Assembly, and another of the dates is a week after Tandy Assembly. So if you're like me, going to 2 events in the Midwest a week apart would be a lot of driving, a lot of time to dedicate to that sort of thing. Please at least keep that in mind, and I hope you'll plan to be at Tandy Assembly no matter what, since we've got a nice stable date for you. And then vote for some other date, perhaps the June date, for CoCo Fest. So, I don't know, what do you think? You guys agree with that?
Yeah, of course I'm biased about Tandy Assembly, so that's the event I'm going to be at. If CoCo Fest gets pushed, I'd hate to miss one and not to get to go to the other, but
hopefully
see how it
pans out. More enough to allow all of us to go to all of them.
Yeah, if they can manage to spread it out, that'd be nice. But we had our date set, and well, I mean, I understand them having to move the date or wanting to take the proper precautions and all that sort of thing. But sometimes you just have to choose. So I think you should choose us. Oh well. Anyway, well, moving on. Now, this is also not really a live event. This is a virtual event. So coming up July 23rd and 24th of 2021, we got Kansas Fest 2021 16-bit virtual edition. Not really sure what makes it 16-bit, but that probably just a play on words. But, the Apple II folks, they seem to think that their Apple II GS is 16-bit, but I kind of quibble with that. But, whatever. If you're into virtual conferences or whatever, I think Kansas Fest probably does it as well as anyone does. So you may want to check out Kansas Fest. Now, obviously, as always with Kansas Fest, you're talking about an Apple II-oriented event. They're nice folks. The Apple II will kind of wash off, but it can be interesting topics, especially if you're like me, you're into more than just one retro computer. So, it can be fun to visit the other side or whatever. If you're into yet another Zoom call in your life, then you can consider attending the Kansas Fest event.
Well, I can expect this one will be well organized as well. So,
yes, it probably will be
a good one to catch if you're going to sit in on a video conference.
Yeah, that's probably, in terms of organization or whatever, this will probably be one of the best available for if you want to have a virtual event. Coming up August 7th and 8th, 2021, We have VCF West, which I think is still scheduled to be a live event at this point. This will be at the Computer History Museum in Mountain View, California, August 7th and 8th. I think this will be kind of a standard sort of VCF event so far. So if you're living out in California, this may be your best option for a show all year. A good show to go to. Coming up, August 20th through 22nd of 2021, we've got the Southern Fried Gaming Expo. This will be held in Atlanta, Georgia, at Marriott Renaissance Waverly Hotel. This is certainly one of the most well-produced in terms of websites and pictures and all that kind of stuff. Boise and Mike have been to a previous event here. I think they enjoyed it.
Definitely, yeah.
You definitely did, yeah. Thinking about going to this one, too.
I'm going to make it if they're having it, I think.
It might also be wrapped in with Vintage Computing Festival Southeast.
Right.
But that was the plan last year, and I think that's the plan this year.
Yeah, the double threat. That's good.
So it could be a good event in August. It's August in Atlanta, so could be a little warm. But other than that, looking like a good event to go to. Hopefully they'll be able to put it together and keep it together. Looking forward to that one. I'm probably going to make it myself, but hadn't quite made the plans. So now coming up October 1st through the 3rd, 2021, now talking about Tandy Assembly 2021, and this will be held in Springfield, Ohio. This is our big event, big Tandy event. It includes both the CoCo and, of course, the Z80 based Tandy machines and all the others too. The M100 and your pocket computer, and haven't seen a lot of Tandy 1000s there, but I'm always a little surprised we haven't seen more of them. Cool event, and definitely one we're all excited about and hoping to get to, and are planning to get to. And we're hoping that you're going to plan to get there as well and keep us on the board.
Got my fingers crossed.
Come on, Ohio.
All right, so coming up, now scheduled for October 8th through 10th, 2021, will be VCF East 2021. This has been rescheduled because of concerns of COVID. Held in Wall, New Jersey at the FOH Science Center. Kind of a typical event with the walk around and people have their displays out with the tables of old computers and that sort of thing. Cool event, nice group of guys. Definitely recommend it, especially if you're in the northeast part of the United States. Go and check it out. Cool. All right. Let's see. Well, that's the end of our announcements. So why don't we take another little break, and then we'll be back with some news.
Oh, I'm dead. But check out that high score.
How did you do that?
With the Gamester. It's a real arcade joystick with arcade buttons.
Can I try?
Sure.
Wow, this has really got some weight to it.
Yeah, it's made of real wood.
Is this walnut?
Yep. You can choose any wood or finish when you order yours.
It looks great, and this joystick is amazing.
It's smooth, and the buttons are great. You can choose a custom cable length, or even get a left-handed version.
I'm sold. Where do I get mine?
Introducing the Gamester. The Gamester is the ultimate two-button joystick controller for your color computer, Dragon, and Tandy 1000. The Gamester features a genuine arcade-quality joystick with two large arcade-quality cherry switch buttons on a single surface. Every Gamester is built to order. Choose the wood for your cabinet. Choose custom paint or stain and finishes. The Gamester is designed to last a lifetime. To build yours, simply reach out to Neil Blanchard by email. Neil@CoCoCrew.org. That's NEIL@CoCoCrew.org. Experience genuine arcade controller action for all of your favorite color computer, Dragon, and Tandy 1000 computer games. For true arcade action, it's the Gamester.
Welcome to Computers R Us. How can I help you?
I'm looking for a color computer.
Ah, here's what you want. This is kind of like a color computer. It has color and sound. Oh, and look at these big fat function keys.
Well, I was looking more for...
Well, we're running a special on serial diskette drives. It can load games in just 90 seconds.
No, I'm really looking for a Tandy color computer.
Oh, this is kind of like a color computer. The keyboard is a little smaller, but it can sound just like a CNC.
Do you service what you sell?
Kinda. We have a 1-800 number.
Thanks, but I'm heading to Radio Shack.
Service, support, technology. Tandy is clearly superior. Don't settle for kinda. Genuine Tandy computers and peripherals are available exclusively at Radio Shack and Radio Shack computer centers. Compare, you too will immediately recognize Tandy technology, service, and support are clearly superior.
All right, CoCo Cruisers and CoCo Maniacs. Welcome back for the news. Our first little news item comes from Alan Huffman, posted to the Color Computer Facebook group. Jim Gary shows up strangest places. In this case, a YouTube channel called Atari Archive has a chronological episodes about the release of each Atari cartridge. And here's one on miniature golf. And then it says TS-80 CoCo conversion by Jim Gary. So anyway, it's only news because it's Jim Gary. So Jim is now such a star in the CoCo community that people notice his name, and it becomes news for us. So very cool. Nice to see you. Yeah, nice to see that you're out there being spotted, Jim. And thanks for the news, Alan. All right, moving on. So this one comes from Bill Pierce. There's an updated release of VCC 2.1.0C, in which the missing control key sequences were not being copied to the VCC screen when using the edit/paste text feature. The paste text control key sequences now work correctly. So that's cool. So if you're using that feature, you probably want it to work correctly. So if you're a VCC user, you should probably find a way to update. The next item, this is from Rietveld, or Henry Rietveld. He's got a YouTube video titled TRS-80 Modem 1 Converted to Wi-Fi. If you recall, these modems it's an external modem. In this case, the older ones that you'd actually flick the toggle switch to be able to enter or originate the modem. You dial the phone with the phone to your ear, and then when you heard the other side pick up, then you flick the switch. Anyway, they were, $300 baht, I guess. All but useless nowadays, but they make a nice little case that matches your TRS-80 computers. So if you happen to be the kind that likes to have the internet connection with one of these serial to internet devices that are available these days, why not tuck it into this case? And so you've got something that kind of at least looks more the part. So I've thought for some time that those old modem cases would make a good home for some sort of drive wire server. So it's kind of the same idea, but in this case, he's got it with the internet service there. Pretty cool. So thanks for showing us, Henry. It's cool to see you keeping active. All right, we've got one from Sheldon McDonald. It says, I got my USB joystick adapter working with a Tandy controller. I think that's pretty much the title tells it all. He's got a video here. Little breakout boards that hook up to like arcade controls or whatever. Make them available through a USB port. And in this case, instead of hooking up to like an arcade control, he's wired it into, he's wired up a socket for a CoCo joystick. And so then he can use his CoCo joystick to play like with an emulator on a PC with the USB connection. So very cool. Good to see Sheldon staying active, doing cool stuff.
This next one is, we actually have the next 4 or 5 are from friend of the show, Jim Gary. He's got a cool update of Pirate Adventure, based on the Adventure International Pirate Adventure. So that's running on the MC10. I believe these are all MC10 games, of course. The next one in the list is Speed Demon. This one's pretty cool. Race game. What I like about it is you select things like how wide do you want the road and what are the visibility conditions. You race trying not to crash into the sides of the road. Then it gives you a summary of how many miles you went over the last week or whatever. So you get some crazy number like 3,500 miles. And so those are pretty cool. One, it starts with a little, it's got a little Christmas tree, like a drag race start. Cool little game. And then there's the Explorer, and this is a 10-line game. There's a few of these entries that looks like Jim is going to enter in the 10-line competition, which seems like he'd have a good chance. He's done a lot of those. Explorer is only 10 lines, and it's an adventure game. Pretty impressive. It's neat, though, because all the descriptions are short. It says, you see rock. You see tree. But it's all crammed into 10 lines. Pretty neat. And then his final game here is Slapshot Basic. It's another 10-liner game that's like hockey would have been back in the late 70s. A series of paddles moving together to like a hockey game. I'm sure it was quicker to write than developing it in hardware back in the 70s. Thanks for all those great entries there, Jim, and good luck in the competition.
Cool. Yep. Very good.
This next one is from Jerry Stratton. Read Basic out loud. You know, when you're entering old Rainbow program listings in your computer and you need to verify the code, he's put together a little script on his Macintosh to read the code back. So it actually audibly reads the program instructions, and you can follow along on your code to make sure that you don't have any mistakes. Kind of a unique way to verify your code. Click on this link and he explains how he did it. And
just check it out and see if his tools are useful for you. I mean, it's these are not automated tools to the extent of, you know, show the computer your magazine and have it type it in for you.
Right.
But it might be a helpful way to do the transcription and maintain accuracy or whatever. You know, your mileage may vary, of course, but give it a try.
Yeah, cool way to do it. Our next one comes from Christine Hall at Data Center Knowledge. No, COBOL is not a dead language.
It's a dead topic that we keep beating.
Yeah, we keep beating it. It just keeps popping up in the news all the time. So there really isn't a shortage of COBOL programmers. COBOL is alive and well, and there's still millions of lines of code being used and developed with COBOL in systems across the world. It's an easy, solid language for its purpose. The issue is it's a geographic one. I need COBOL programmers in New Jersey for my unemployment system, but there aren't a lot there. So they would have to go to where the COBOL programmers are, but they are out there to be found. I guess they're not teaching COBOL very well anymore.
Yeah, there's the guy quoted in the article. There's Cameron, I think it's Shea, S-E-A-Y. It said in the article he's teaching at East Carolina University. He was teaching at North Carolina in Greensboro, which is near me. A few discussions a couple of years ago with him just because I was doing some work that related to the Z-Series, you know, the IBM mainframes. And he's like a mainframe guy. And that's kind of why he was quoted in this article, is because he's a mainframe guy teaching COBOL to people studying computer science down at ECU. Anyway, it's kind of cool to see somebody whose name I'd actually brushed against or whatever. So, not exactly Linus Torvalds, but, you know, close enough.
Okay, our next one is from Katie Wickens at PC Gamer. The untold hackaday life of the guy who made Flight Sim 1 for Radio Shack's TRS-80 computer. This article is really about Greg Zumwalt, who we've had on the show, and we met at CoCo Fest a few years ago. Great guy. Good article talking about his career and what he's done in his semi-retirement with mechanical devices and the things that he's created. So if you're a Greg Zumwalt fan, definitely give this.
And everyone should be.
Yes, everyone should be. Interesting guy. Done all the low-level stuff for flight simulators, and as well as writing code for Radio Shack's computers, including the color computer.
Yeah, Zumwalt's definitely an interesting guy, and when you talk to him, it's not just shooting the bull or you know, just reminisce about how great such and such a game was or whatever. I mean, you're talking to somebody who really knows something about flight control in particular. Anyway, pretty cool guy.
First news article for me is from Edmund Orgnick. Detokenizers for Microsoft Basics. Basics with a plural. This is pretty cool. Yeah. Got a list here on all different platforms. MSX Basic, GW Basic, TRS-80 Color Computer Basic. There's a whole pile in here in this article.
Microsoft Basics definitely have some lineage to one another, even amongst the different CPUs. And so they'll kind of work in a similar fashion. In this case, talking specifically about tokenization and detokenization. Anyway, if you're into technical details of how things work, it might be a good bit of background information to consume.
The basic programs are stored as tokens, correct?
Right.
If you had a file basic file, it would just be a bunch of tokens, but this would actually turn it, for all intents and purposes, back into ASCII with the full keyboard spelled out.
Sure.
And that could be done on a modern machine.
Right.
Today.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's market for that for more than what we've got tools to do. The Toolshed will do some of that kind of work, but it doesn't translate from Dragon to CoCo, or from CoCo to MC10, or vice versa, which all could pretty much be done with almost the same code and just pointing at a different table of tokens. So,
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Somebody ought to take that on. It's just, I won't live long enough to enjoy such glory, I think. But
I don't know. Sounds like a perfect application for Prolog.
Perhaps.
Next news article is from Brian Schubering, and he has provided a Word doc formatted nicely to assist others who are trying to print out the instructions for CC3 Fax. It's a color computer fax. It's a program from Robert Galt.
I don't know a lot about this CC3 fax. Is that the same as the WeFax stuff, or is this a different program?
I think it's the same thing.
Yeah.
You can put up for shortwave, and you can pull down Navy weather charts and stuff like that, I guess. Mm-hmm. Good to have the instructions. I'd prefer you use LibreOffice, but, you take what you can get. All kidding aside, it looks nice, but it would be good to get a PDF stuck out there on Color Computer Archive.
Well, yeah, a PDF would probably be more useful, generally speaking, but
yeah,
still better than having to deal with the style writer or whatever.
Right.
It's a nice job.
It looks great.
Multiple office structure fire. Engine 3, engine.
We interrupt our normal programming to bring you a News 5 exclusive.
Several buildings have been taken by mass gunmen. About 30 minutes ago, we began smelling acrid smoke, and it's believed that they are setting buildings on fire. We've been hearing gunfire, and we believe they are targeting first responders.
Let's go!
Firecopter 2-0, reporting direct. 2-0, engaging the first fire. This is a real fireball here. There appears to be somebody on the roof. They're shooting at us. Engaging hostile gunmen.
Firecopter from Adventure International.
Rated E for everyone.
Do you want to fully utilize the power of the 6809 and the Radio Shack TRS-80 color computer? Then subscribe today to 68 Microjournal. 68 Microjournal was established with one objective in mind: to provide a magazine for 68XX users by 68XX users. 68 Microjournal has a strong worldwide following and has been covering the TRS-80 color computer longer than any magazine. Read product reviews, technical discussions, and get helpful hints about expanding memory, power supply cooling, repairing sticky keyboards, and connecting printers, to name just a few. A one-year subscription to 68 Microjournal is only $24.50. 68 Microjournal, dedicated to 68XX users worldwide.
All right, next news article is from Nick Morentis. He is starting the new year off with a brand new game. He started a blog on 0 Hour Development. Looks like he's well on his way on another high-end game here for the Color Computer 3.
Another platform game, yeah.
A platform game, yes.
Yeah, it's cool. It's good of him to keep busy. He's produced some pretty good games over the years, and hopefully he'll produce another one.
Speaking of high-end games, next news article is from Chet Simpson. It's titled, So Far the Primary Test Game for the Chaos Rendering Engine, the nifty game called Alter Ego. So he's using that as a test for his Chaos engine. I say it looks really nice.
Yeah, as always, it looks really cool.
Definitely pushing the envelope on the CoCo 3, that's for sure.
Yep. So there's a second link there for our Alter Ego checkpoint. So he's got some video there.
I see that.
So check out the show notes and you'll be able to see what he's doing.
Cool. There's so much going on one screen. Very smooth.
Yep. Very cool.
All right. The next news item is I made a text reader for the MCX32, and for my first test book, The Whole Bible, by Robert Sieg. So this is on the MC10 Facebook group, it looks like. the whole Bible on an MC10. Well, obviously with the help of the MCX32. It says that it's over 700 6K files. Very interesting work. So now that he's got the Bible down, I think the next is the Quran. Okay, the next news item is adapter for Atari C64 to Tandy joystick by Cybernetic Systems at Tindy. So Tindy is a website where you can buy different projects from people that they work on. This is an adapter to bring an Atari or Commodore 64 joystick to a Tandy 1000 or a CoCo. This is pretty interesting. Do you know who's behind this, John?
I don't know the person. I think this was popped up on a Tandy 1000 group. As we pointed out with the adapter that Neil manufactures and sells, those will work with a Tandy 1000. So the ones made for the Tandy 1000 will work with a CoCo. But do we need another one of these? Well, maybe not, but perhaps this person wasn't aware of what we've got going on in the CoCo world, so he'll be forgiven.
Choice.
We've got no shortage of such devices now. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
True. The next news item is new CoCo 3 game update by Mr. Dave at Atari Age. This is it's called Casino Mont Royal, which is a French and English, like it's a bilingual gambling game. It has some interesting graphics. Here's a video that he posted from YouTube, and I don't see a lot of gameplay. Maybe there's a few shots of it, but I do see a lot of graphics montages. Very interesting work here. I think he's been working on this for a while. I don't think it's released yet.
Yeah, I think it's just a progress update. I don't know a lot about Mr. Dave, but he's been, like I say, he's been working on this one for a little while. Both some progress. Good to see.
Yep, very good. The next news item is pigs can be taught how to use joysticks. Experiment finds by Sarah Spari. And wow, there's actually a pig using a joystick. I guess I don't know what is it to get food or something? And by God, it's the gamester. No, not the gamester. But...
Even a pig can use the gamester.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I was just thinking that there are no teenage girls or college-age girls who are surprised by the notion that pigs can use a joystick. Because they've seen their boyfriends and where they live and, what their friends do. Yeah, anyway, just a little funny slip in there. So this is an announcement is from Erico Patricio Montero. If I mispronounce that, Erico, please send in some audio, let me know. But announcing Daniel Campos, together with a couple of his friends, were able to find an LZ Color 64, a rare Brazilian CoCo 1 clone, down at a flea market. And so it's really cool. Of the Brazilian clones, it's probably in some ways looks the most like a CoCo 1 just because they've kind of honored the shape and color a little bit. But it's still, you can tell it's different, right? It's unique. I didn't realize that they were rare. And I'd seen one before, I think probably from Daniel Post's postings. Anyway, it's pretty cool. I think he's gone on and has done some cleanup and repair work and got it working. So it's cool. The hunt is still on down in Brazil, I guess, for a few rare CoCo clones. Nice to see they're having some luck finding that stuff. Well, next is a link, a YouTube link from Cheddar. Cheddar posts lots of little did you know kind of stuff. In this case, the video is on the inaudible sounds that make movies scarier. And so it talks about infrasound, which it then corrects that it's not really infrasound. Technically, it's
sub-bass.
Sub-bass, there you go, yeah. So very low frequency sounds, like lower even than 60 hertz. Like 35 hertz, 40 hertz, something like that is mostly what they're talking about. Anyway, these very low frequency sounds, especially if you can produce them in a controlled environment like a movie theater, they actually can have a physical effect, and in fact can make some people sick, which is weird and creepy and a little funny at the same time. I thought it was a neat to watch, whatever, and I thought, unlike some super high frequency thing, which might be difficult to do, really low frequency sound, a CoCo should be able to produce it. Whether or not you can boost enough sub-bass, subwoofer power to have any effect on someone remains to be seen, but I would love to see the results of your experiments. If you could, when you're working on your game with have some bloody monster or whatever, if you can put out some weird low sound makes people sick to their stomach or something, that'd be really cool. I'd love to see that at CoCo Fest.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Thanks, Cheddar. All right. So moving on, we've got a link to a little write from Joel Reese, looking deeper into Hello World and C, car type and characters and strings. So basically, it's like a how-to on a Hello World, which is like, the Hello World's a traditional first programming task in a new language sort of thing, particularly for C programmers. But so he's got into a little more in-depth, deeper technical info on Hello World than most people would do. But it could be worthwhile to read, especially if you're limited in your familiarity with the C language. Looks like he goes into some information about the Unixes and Windows and Android even. Anyway, so there's some information there that could be worth consuming. So check it out and let us know what you think. Very cool. Thanks, Joel. This is another one from Mr. Henry Rietveld. So Rietveld. And it's a GoTech Games image. This is the link points you out to the CoCo mailing list on Multimedia. Just to cut to the chase a little bit, you need to process through this thread and get to the end because he has a little problems with posting the right link. And so if when you follow through the link to the show notes, be sure to follow through on this thread so that you can find where the actual link to use is 2 or 3 or 4 deep on this thread. Anyway, but thanks, Henry, for helping us out with help for those who are trying to use a GoTech as a floppy replacement. Very cool. All right. Thanks, Henry.
Our next one is from Retro Innovations. It's the Flash Pack. Jim Brain's been working on the Flash Pack. This one uses a 512K, so it's larger, gives you 32 16K banks to select from, I guess. So he's done some preliminary testing. It works with some basic code, but it's very slow with the basic code, which you would expect. So just kind of an update on his development on that. So stay tuned if you're interested in a Flash Pack. Our next one is from Antonio Carlos Jimenez Ely. We now have a template to recreate a high-res original box. This is kind of a fun one. I guess he borrowed recently the Tandy high-res joystick adapter, and it always came in a little black and white box. So someone was able to take an original box and trace it. That gave them the dimensions for it, and it looks like he's just printing it out on like a cardstock. I don't think he's using a fancy cutting machine or anything, but completely reproduced the look and appearance and cut it out, and you fold it together and glue it, and you've got the box that comes with the Tandy high-res adapter. So all kinds of ways to be creative with your CoCo, not all of them software or electronic.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's preservation, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. That's just one more way you can contribute. So fun little project. I know we certainly have enjoyed having the ROM pack boxes like the originals. So
yeah,
yeah, that's nice. Cool. Thanks for that. All right, this next one's from Sheldon McDonald. I got some music macro language running in assembly. So he's having some success playing music using some assembly language. And he's got a video. You can listen to some of the output from it. Kind of cool.
Yep, and so it's a reminder for those who might not be sure, the music macro language is a different name for essentially the syntax of the play command. So if you're familiar with producing music in BASIC on the CoCo, you can use that same notation with, I guess, with this tool that he's working on to move it over to your assembly language. So it's a handy way to be able to deal with musical notation. So it's suitable to notating music. So it's a good way to do music for games or whatever.
All right, this next one is from Robert Murphy. It's Nostromo Dispatching. I guess this is an update on a game he's working on. I would assume that was the name of the ship in Alien, right? The Nostromo?
Yeah, I think so.
So some horror-based game. So kind of a blog about creating that game. Stop by and check it out.
Looks like I'm back up again. And my first news article is from Guillaume Major. SDCX version 1.25 cosmetic update. He has released another update for the SDCX, and it's you can change the colors, border graphics, to your liking. Looks pretty cool.
Too many choices.
Yeah, I know there is a lot of choices there. I haven't updated to this version yet. I'm using just the one just before, so I'll have to check this out.
Yeah, it looks nice.
Yeah, good work, Guillaume. Keep up the great work. That's an awesome program. A lot of people are using it.
Computer centers.
Oh, hello. I was just making a little drink. Let me fix you one, too. I've been waiting so long for you. Why don't you curl up next to me by this fire? This is nice. We've got the 3 most important things to have a beautiful time together. You, me, and the CoCo Crew Podcast. Pure heaven.
All right, my next news article is from Greg Dion. I made the Microcolor Basic compiler public.
Yeah, so he kind of came out of nowhere not too long ago with a compiler project. It's similar to something that I had worked on a couple of years ago now. In his case, he actually pushed it through and made something available. So very cool. Don't know a lot about his compiler. I think the language that he is targeting is essentially more or less 100% clone of MC10's, Microcolor Basic, which probably has some pluses and minuses to it. I mean, plus would be if you have a working MC10 Basic program, then you probably don't have to make many changes to it to get it to compile. In fact, I've seen some Jim Gary examples of that. So it's cool that then you can get some higher performance or whatever out of those. I'm not 100% sure. I've seen some references to maybe this is doing some bytecode compilation. I don't know if it's all of it's bytecode or if it's just some of it or maybe none of it. It's just I did see some references to that. When you're building the compiler, you have an opportunity to maybe, if you're willing to change the language a little bit, you can relieve some pain points in the language or whatever. I don't know if he did any of that. I don't think he's really done that. So if you don't like it, MC10 Basic, then this won't help much. but presumably if you're looking for a basic compiler, then you do like the basic language, right? So anyway, it's cool that he's done it. Again, I don't know if it's totally a bytecode or if there's there must be some assembly language because he mentions you need an assembler to process the output. So there must be some assembly language coming out. So I haven't seen any performance numbers, so I don't know if it's a huge improvement in performance or not. I would assume it probably is. Anyway, I haven't toyed with it a lot. Your mileage may vary. That said, thank you to Greg for making that available to the community. and should be an asset, should be useful for people who want to do something in BASIC with enhanced performance. So
yeah, cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Very cool.
All right, our next news article is from Jamie Chow. I created a GitHub Actions demo, and it's there's a web link pointing to it for Hello MC10 that illustrates how to use GitHub Actions to automatically.
This is more Docker goodness here.
Yeah, so Jamie knows about using Docker and has made some tools available in a Docker container, and he's expanded it here some with the Greg Dion compiler that we were just talking about.
All right, my next news article is from Chet Simpson again. He was in the last section I did. And this is Chaos Rendering Engine Milestone number 2. And this one here, it's pretty cool. It actually shows a graphic demo of it running. And it kind of reminds me of the Lemmings. We just had a whole bunch of characters moving on the screen, animating pretty fast.
Yeah. All at the same time. It's what's amazing.
Yeah, it's smooth.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely
very cool.
Looking like 16-bit graphics to me. It's kind of pushing the plate there.
Well, the 16 colors at least.
Yeah.
So there's a couple other links there, just sort of in the same topic. You know, one where he's done a pretty lengthy write-up on what he's doing with Chaos, what his capabilities are, that sort of stuff. And then he's got another where he talks a little bit about interfacing his Chaos engine with I think he's using CMOC as a C compiler.
Mm-hmm.
So a little more information.
Yeah, 25-page overview. That's a lot of information. That's amazing. Great that he's documenting this so thoroughly.
The next news item is Drive Wirelessly for the Color Computer by Chris Lucky. This is a YouTube video of a product that Chris has made, which is kind of unique actually, and I haven't tried it myself, but I need to get one. But it's a board that he puts inside of a CoCo 1. He demonstrates this on this video. And the board sits between the 6821 and the Bitbanger port, and it basically turns your CoCo into a wireless drive-wire client. This is quite cool. It's good to see my brainchild continue to grow.
Definitely.
Yeah, very cool. The way he's tapping in there with that little daughter board for the PIA could also just be used anytime you want to hook up a so-called TTL serial port to the Bitbanger, and anything else you might want to hook up there, whether it's drive wire or not.
We don't need no stinking plus and minus 12 volts.
Exactly.
All right, the next news item is this evening I released DriveWire 4 server for macOS version 1.2.1 to address some issues with the Sparkle updater by yours truly. So for those of you who use the Mac OS version of the DriveWire 4 server, there is an update, and now it updates properly. If there is another update, you can check within the program, and it will go and download the most recent version. I have yet to test that, of course, because I need to put another version out, but that is not working.
Cool. I like the Mac version. I use it.
Thank you. I do too. The next news item is there's an OS 9 Prolog interpreter from Metasoft in the archive. The documentation came in the forum ... So speaking of Prolog, wow, this is interesting. I had no idea that someone, I guess back in the day, had a Prolog interpreter. Very cool.
Yeah, so the documentation is in the form of text files marked up with formatting codes with a stylograph word processor. And so what Joel has done is, well, I don't know what he did, or if he did this manually, or if he somehow has some sort of conversion or what, but basically he's produced PDFs from the stylograph documentation. And if you want to play with Prolog, which is a good way to burn your brain, you might consider doing that under OS 9. Or however else you want to do it.
I think these I love languages as this is the topic in computer science, and I think doing this under Nitrous 9 would be a very cool thing. It would be a lot of work. You'd have to have a good, repeatable environment to do the development and the testing, but it would be pretty cool to have an interpreter, that you could do something like Prolog on under Nitrous 9. Very cool. The last news item is, because I've only ever read enthusiastic articles about the Pytrex, I want to write something critical by Tilo TW. So this is in a Facebook group that I am not a part of. It's Vectrix Fans Unite. John, you want to talk about this one?
Well, I mean, so the Pytrex is a card or something that allows you to interface some form of the Raspberry Pi to a Vectrix, which basically puts the Vectrix in charge, or puts the Raspberry Pi in charge of the Vectrix. It uses the Vectrix hardware as a display, and I'm sure it can read the joystick and all that sort of stuff. But so he continues on. I don't think it's good when the Vectrix only serves as a screen. Exciting games will look worse. Blah blah blah. Anyway, whether you care about the Vectrix or not, whether you agree with Hilo or not, when I saw this, it reminded me of the kind of things that I like to put out, or I like it when we have as a host topic discussion. And given that we'd, recently taken a little heat from someone, I'll say it, someone on that other show, about our host topics being somehow offensive or controversial. I thought I'd point out that, there are people having such discussions in other communities, and it's not just us, it's not us being weird, that discussing these sorts of things is natural and normal and expected.
Yeah, I can see that. Sure.
So anyway, just sort of there is a little bit of evidence of the way things really are. Sorry to burn the last entry on a Vectrix news item, but I thought it was worth discussing, or at least having it out there in the air.
And it has a 6809, so there you go.
Well, there you go. Right. All right, well, so that concludes our news segment for this month. So why don't we take a little break, and then I'll be back with some feedback.
If you use OS 9 Level 2 as your CoCo's primary operating system, you know its power and flexibility. Word processing, spreadsheets, program development. But what about tools that help you manage your day-to-day tasks? Help is here with Presto Partner. Presto Partner is an integrated desktop calendar, notepad, phone book, and more. Schedule important events on the calendar and be reminded of these events automatically. Quickly enter notes that are saved to disk and fully searchable. Get a hard copy of any note. Plus, you can perform decimal and hexadecimal calculations in any note. The integrated phone book allows you to quickly store names, addresses, and phone numbers. Search by any field. You can even have Presto Partner dial the number for you with a Hayes or Hayes-compatible modem. Presto Partner also allows you to define macro keys that can perform up to 10 OS 9 commands. Presto Partner is a RAM resident utility. It opens in its own window. Just switch to it with the clear key anytime you need it. Just how useful is Presto Partner? Imagine you're typing a letter on your CoCo when the phone rings. The call is for your spouse, but they're not home. No problem. Press clear to get to Presto Partner and Alt down to create a new note. Enter the message for your spouse, then press clear to return to your letter writer. Say you're working on a program. You need to figure out the ASCII value of A multiplied by 5. Simply press the clear key to bring up Presto Partner. Press Alt down to open a note and type in the calculation. The result is displayed instantly in the note. While working on a spreadsheet, your CoCo starts beeping and flashing red. You press clear to bring up Presto Partner, and you see that your child has a dental appointment at 11:30. You need to call the school to let them know about it. So you press Alt-P to open the phone book. You look up the number, and Presto Partner dials the number for you. Presto Partner is a complete desk inside your computer. Find out why so many describe Presto Partner as invaluable, a must-have, simply the most useful tool for my CoCo. Presto Partner requires a 512K CoCo 3 with OS 9 Level 2 and at least one disk drive. Presto Partner by Keith Alfonso, distributed by CoCo Pro.
All right, CoCo Maniacs, CoCo Cruisers. This one that popped up just over the weekend or whatever. That's from a David Rivera. Someone who's listed as having been a member of the Facebook group since 2018. I don't know if this is a joke or a really confused and misguided person or what, but he pops up out of nowhere on the CoCo Crew Podcast Facebook page and says, is this a group of Conan O'Brien's fans or not? Now, I don't know how you guys feel about Conan O'Brien. I'm just old enough that I barely know who Conan O'Brien is. But I do know that he apparently he calls himself or somebody calls him CoCo at some point, and so his fans have some sort of CoCo reference, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Team CoCo.
So David, you're in the wrong spot. Sorry. I don't know why it took so long for you to figure that out, but no, I don't have anything against him. I only know just enough to call him Conan instead of Conan, which, I'm over the age where I prefer to use to call people Conan because it's so much cooler. But I don't think I could rely on Mr. O'Brien to bite the head off a buzzard while he's being fried or anything like that. So. Anyway, just put that to rest. Sorry. But thanks for the feedback. If you decide to stay with the group, I hope you enjoy the podcast. Anyway, moving on. So, let's see. We have a quote from Frederick D. Provencha. I don't know which syllable to put the emphasis on, but so he starts out with, on each program you ask if anyone is working on any projects. And so I'd like to tell you about one I'm working on. I'm developing a drop-in replacement for the control program that is part of Multiview for OS 9 and Nitrous 9. The control program allows you to change all sorts of environmental settings for Multiview. Felt the original control program was a bit dated, so I'm writing a replacement. It's nearly done, and I'm working with L. Curtis Boyle to include it in his Nitrous 9 EOU releases, probably starting with Beta 7. May make it available elsewhere, but haven't decided exactly where yet. Cool. Very exciting, Mr. Fred.
Definitely could use an update, so that's cool.
I barely know what that is in OS 9. I really don't use it. I leave that to my co-hosts. Love to hear that you're participating and that you're contributing source code. Even better if you're enjoying yourself in the process. It's all good. So I'm glad to hear that you're excited and contributing and doing cool stuff. So thanks for letting us know. So that's the feedback I've got in the show notes. Taking a little break, and we'll be back with, the rest of the show.
This month in CoCo history. Welcome to This Month in CoCo history, where we explore events in the life of our favorite home computer. I'm Boise Pete, and this month we go back 37 years to the February 1984 issue of the Rainbow magazine to learn about the introduction of a special program that helped us find errors in our typed basic listings. Page 21 of that issue featured Rainbow Check Plus for the CoCo and the MC10, an assembly language program that performed integrity checks on basic programs typed in from the Rainbow. It was an improvement on Rainbow Check, a similar program that appeared in the January 1983 issue of the Rainbow. Rainbow Check Plus performed additional integrity checks, such as distinguishing between incorrectly typed basic line numbers, mistyped variable names, and commands. The tool was used in conjunction with a special table of values at the start of each basic program featured in an article in the magazine. The table contained line numbers at specific intervals, along with expected Rainbow Check Plus values at that point. As you typed in the basic program, you would execute Rainbow Check Plus to ensure that what you typed matched the program listing exactly. Errors would be caught by comparing the output of the Rainbow Check Plus program to the printed table, allowing you to recheck and review your work before continuing. While Rainbow on Tape and Rainbow on Disk alleviated the need for typing in long code listings into your CoCo, for those on a budget and with time on their hands, Rainbow Check Plus helped to avoid hours of frustration by ensuring the WYSIWYG principle. What you type is what you get. And that's this month in CoCo history.
Since 1994, Cloud9 has been making cool stuff for your color computer, like the Cloud9 Mini Flash, a flash cartridge for your color computer or Dragon. The Mini Flash gives you a total of 4 16K banks of flash memory. You can easily flash ROM images into any of the 4 16K banks. Store your favorite DOS ROMs and game packs on the Mini Flash. And the Mini Flash is perfect for prototyping your own ROMs without the need for an EEPROM burner. The Mini Flash comes with flash programming software and test utilities. It's preloaded with HDB-DOS for DriveWire and 2 games from Retro Tinker, CoCo Dooku and Follow CoCo, so you can use the Mini Flash immediately. The Cloud9 Mini Flash works on all color computer and Dragon models and is housed in a high-quality injection molded cartridge case. The Mini Flash, only from Cloud9. Cool stuff for your color computer. Visit cloud9tech.com for details.
All right. CoCo Maniacs, CoCo Cruisers. What's the difference? Maybe that should be its own discussion. Welcome back for our host discussion for this month. So I'm going to try to, as I often do, try to introduce the topic a little bit. Part of being a retro computing person tends to be, in fact, it almost just came right out, retro computer collector. Most of us are collectors to some degree. Some of us maybe only have 1 or 2 devices or 1 or 2 things maybe we've kept from our childhood or picked up some random visit to a thrift store or whatever. But I find that a lot of us have sizable collections, usually not just CoCos or more extensive pure collector stuff. Somebody who has, without picking on anybody in particular, people who collect every item with a certain brand or, a different, with the TDP, Tandy Data products or whatever. The point being, some people's collections are more complete or attempting to be more complete in some aspect or another than others. So the question, I guess, is when you get to that level of where you're doing full set collecting, where you're collecting every model of CoCo, every different serial, or not serial number, every different catalog number or whatever, every printer that Tandy produced or something like that. When you're doing that full set collecting, is that a healthy obsession? Are you doing something reasonable, or are you getting to the point where you should consider whether you need to back off or get some help? So the real question is, do you gotta catch them all? Are you out hunting Pokemon when you're out collecting? Not literally Pokemon, but are you doing the equivalent of trying to catch all the Pokemon when you're out there? Are you scouring eBay all the time or whatever? And I don't know. I mean, I guess the way it presented there, the reaction would be to say, no, you shouldn't be doing that. You should be living your life and going on with stuff. But maybe we can make a case for, a certain amount of collecting is okay, right? I hope so.
I'll chime in.
Okay, go ahead.
So I've kind of been on both sides of this before, where you want one of every variation of something. The problem, I think, comes in that there's several problems with it. Number one is where you're going to put it. You have to have the space to do that. And I happen to have the space if I wanted to collect a lot of stuff, but some people don't. The other thing is the cost, right? And the feeling that in some cases you're almost duplicating things. So you might have a downland cartridge that is, the old style and then the new style. Should you have both? Is one good enough?
Right.
For me, if you're going to do that, the value of doing that is in the CoCo itself, right? I can see the interesting aspect of owning 5 variations of CoCo 2s, all with different model numbers, that have come out. Even that can get kind of out of hand, I guess, if you're not careful. This is speaking of the CoCo collector, right? But if I were to do that, I would focus, like I said, more on the CoCos and less on things like cartridges, cartridge variations. It's interesting to note those things. It's interesting to document those things. But personally, I don't think I would be a collector of all of those variations, because that just will grow your collection to the point where you have to store it somewhere, and you need to store it in a good environment, right? You just don't want to put it in a garage or, out in the attic where it's going to get baked. So I think with a collection, And an expansive collection should come some responsibility in how you maintain it. That's my thoughts.
Because they will, the plastic crumbles.
Absolutely.
And,
turns yellow.
The papers, boxes degrade and whatever else. But yeah, no, you really touched on it there with the cartridge games. Several of the cartridge games have both Tandy variations, which might include TRS-80 variations, and then also TDP variations. And then even within, like you mentioned Downland, and I can think of like 3 versions of the Downland cartridge, and I'm not a label collector. I just know that particular one has different versions, and the one that's compatible with the CoCo 3 and one that's not, and at least one other, I think, which I'm not sure if there's 2 compatible with the CoCo 3 or 2 that aren't.
Well, if you're serious, you could have the Australian and UK versions as well.
Well, there you go. And well, you can go down the rabbit hole. That's one for me. I used to shun game stuff for a long time just because somehow I felt like I already had a goofy hobby. I didn't need to clutter it up with games. How weird is that, right? And then at some point I decided I liked the CoCo games and wanted to collect the CoCo cartridges, and then you face the topic that nobody really ever produced an actual list of all the CoCo cartridges. And then you start trying to produce a new one, and then you have to decide, well, does something like the RS-232 pack count as a cartridge or not? Well, it does have software, but it's not exactly a game. Or like the Sound Speech cartridge, which has no software on it, at least no CoCo software. Does that count as a cartridge or not? What about the cartridges from third parties? Well, there was not many back in the day, but then nowadays we've got at least one other, 2 or 3 people producing some cartridges, let's say. And do those count? Is that part of your collection? I don't know. I think anytime you start down a full set collecting goal, you need to put some boundaries on it because it's easy to spin them out and go down some rabbit holes. Speaking of collectors and rabbit holes, Neil, I figure you should have something to say here.
What I was thinking here is, it's bad enough going for a full set on one platform, but if you're going to target this on 4 or 5 different platforms, that's a real bad rabbit hole. Not only for buying the stuff and spending a lot of money, but even the space it takes. You need a lot of real estate to house this stuff and to house it properly.
I think you have to measure it like any other obsession. How is it affecting your day-to-day life, right? If it's it's only a problem if it's keeping you from your family and it's bankrupting you and all the typical signs that you need psychological help, that you're become a hoarder rather than a collector. Yeah. But if you have, because some people like the challenge of it. I think we all like to have rare things, right? We've all got little CoCo things that we hold on to because they're so rare. They're cool to have in your collection, even if you're not literally collecting all of that. It's easy to be a collector of like floppy disk controllers, right? Because you want to get every shape and model and size and all of the disto controllers and the Sardis controller, and it would be cool to have every one of those. And same thing, you can get the same controller in 3-4 different cases if you want. As far as a pursuit, there's a lot of, as far as obsessions go, that's not a very unhealthy thing. If you've got the time, the money, the energy, and the wherewithal, some people just enjoy the hunt, and they're always on the lookout for that, to have a complete set of whatever it is. And as long as you're not doing anything harmful to yourself or others, you should follow your bliss and get every one of those that you want, and get the UK version and get the Australian version. Because it really is cool to encounter a collection like that, or it'd be neat to see a collection like that at a Tandy Assembly or a CoCo Fest on display. Sometimes it's really amazing. Wow, I didn't know they made all these different versions.
Yeah, well, it definitely can be cool, like you say, to see a couple of things that at first glance are exactly the same thing, and you start looking closer and different fonts or different colors, or the joystick handle is metal or plastic. There's all kinds of different variations out there. I don't know, but it's getting awfully close to saying something like, no, I just like to drink. Alcoholics, they go to meetings. As long as you're not going to the meeting, you're not an alcoholic, right?
Well, that falls into, if you're harming yourself or others, then
true,
you've got a problem. But if you're not...
Now, I would like to say that I see value in documenting all of these variations. Not that you have to have them, but it's certainly nice to know about them.
Well, that's true. And if you document them, you probably save a few people from having to tear their hair out trying to get their own.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So that's probably cool.
Just knowing that it exists, is probably...
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I understand the obsession to some degree as you find out something. It's just really cool to learn about little variations, and especially if you can learn the story of why they exist or whatever. I don't know. It can be cool. But, I mean, it does remind me, I went to that Kansas Fest one year, several years ago, and there was a fellow there who did a presentation on the Apple mouse. I think, they had a version of the mouse, for the Apple II, and which was similar, if not exactly the same as the original Macintosh. But he did a presentation where he had 75 different ones of them. And, it's like, well, here's these two, and they have serial numbers within 10 of each other, but they use different fonts on their labels, or, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, it's interesting. I'm not sure it's worth dedicating your life to collecting all that sort of stuff, but I mean, I guess that's a judgment call, right?
If you want to get technical, every copy of a cartridge is different because molecular structure is not the same between them.
Well, true, exactly. Exactly.
Then you've got a problem, yeah.
Yeah. Then you need to go to a meeting.
Then you just want to take over the CoCo world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It depends on the cartridge's superposition.
Yeah. That's what we need is quantum cartridges so they're different every time you try them, right?
That's right.
Oh, wait, no, once you sample them, then they're the same forever, or something like that.
Change the game's outcome by observing it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, I don't know if we've accomplished anything with this one. Do you got to catch them all? No, you don't got to catch them all. You can have a lot of fun even if you don't get every variation. Is there anything wrong if you do catch them all? Well, that probably remains to be seen, but...
I want to meet you if you catch them all. I want to see your collection.
Yeah, well, I'd like to at least check out all the ones you've caught. Maybe you could take some pictures and put them on a website, and maybe bring them to Tandy Assembly. That'd be cool.
Yes, it would.
So,
yeah, be a nice display.
Yeah. Was that it, or is anybody got anything else to add?
That's it. Have fun.
All right.
Be healthy.
All right. Well, why don't we draw this one to a close? That'll be it for now. We hope that you will stick with us and enjoy the rest of the show.
Whoa! What do you want, mister?
I'm looking for gold.
Shoot, mister, we ain't got no gold around these here parts. But you can look all you want.
We got plenty of lead and tin, though.
Who are you? What you got there, stranger?
It's the new J&M Systems JFD CoCo Disc Controller. It sets a new standard in performance and quality. Its built-in digital phase lock loop data separator means no need for adjustments, ever. And the card contacts, pure gold. Woo-hoo! Best of all, the JFD CoCo is plug compatible with the original CoCo and the new CoCo 2.
How much, stranger?
Just $139.
Wait, where can I get one?
From J&M Systems, Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Add realism to your color computer's flight simulator programs. Fly the CoCo 150, a real wheel and throttle, just like a real airplane, just $49.95. Or buy the combo, Tom Mix Worlds of Flight and the CoCo 150, just $72.95. Try ASI AFR Flight Simulator, the most valid home computer instrument flight simulator for just $15.95. Or buy the Everything Package, the CoCo 150, Tom Mix Worlds of Flight, and the ASI AFR Flight Simulator, all for just $82.95. Get your CoCo off the ground today with the CoCo 150. From Alvin Scientific, Daytona Beach, Florida.
All right, CoCo Maniacs, CoCo Cruisers, all together now. Let's see, we've got a special little segment. We've got Mr. John Strong on, who wants to talk about, kind of introduce us to a project he's been working on, which involves 3D printing work. Not a surprise, really, considering what John's known for. Beyond that, I really don't know a whole lot about it, so we're going to have John talk about it. Tell us a little bit about what the project is and what he hopes to be doing with it, and who he's working with, all that sort of things. And of course, we've got Mr. Neil Blanchard. Hello, Neil.
Hello, everyone.
We've got Mike Rowan.
Hello, everybody.
We've got Mr. Boise Pete. Hello, Boise.
Good evening, everyone.
So, John, welcome.
Being off of work for a while, I've had some time, and Alan likes to ping me or poke me, as I like to call it.
Just for clarity, when you say Alan, you mean Alan Huffman, right?
Yes, Alan Huffman. On Facebook, he did the poke about CoCo cases. Well, this has kind of fit in something I've been planning to do, so I kind of did some research and follow-up on it. The research and some of the CAD work, my wife says, price one of those printers that'll do that. And so I did that. And she said, buy one. I took her up on it. We invested in a 400 millimeter by 400 millimeter 3D printer. We did that because that's really the minimal size that'll do a full-size CoCo 3 case. The case width is about 375 or something like that, pretty well close to that. So I started doing CAD, updating my CAD files. I already had a shell design for just the outside as a starting point. I didn't have a big enough printer, but I did a test design, scaled it down, didn't have all the details in it, just to see if it was possible. At that time, I had a 300 by 300 printer. It test printed okay. Unfortunately, the 300 by 300 decided to quit on me. So that kind of ended the project there, because at about that time, Ed Snyder announced he was investigating doing a injected molded case. And somebody else on the CoCo list was talking about maybe doing a case with acrylic and metal bending and stuff. And it's like, okay, I don't have the printer. I surely can't compete against the injection molded case if somebody can do that. So basically, I dropped the project for those reasons. Now it's been a year or two later after that, and we've really seen nothing happen out of that, at least what we see. And as you guys know, getting injected molded cases are pretty expensive and a very intense project. So I started on that. The first part I did is I actually finished modeling, went and modeled out the bottom of the CoCo 3 case. Did a print at that, and the top case, original case, actually would fit on my test print. So pretty close. And
how long does it take for the CoCo 3 case to print?
The bottom with the cutout took over 10 hours. I haven't printed the top yet, and it would take definitely a lot longer than that.
And the fidelity of that is about the same as an actual CoCo 3 bottom case? All the intricacies and things are in place?
Yeah, what I did is the flat areas, I cut them out to speed time and save plastic. And I switched the nozzle. I'm using a 1 millimeter nozzle, which is a lot bigger than a standard nozzle to speed up the time. But yet it has all the supports in there, the cutouts and everything, the RGB. With a little bit of jiggling and a little work, actually put an actual motherboard on there. A couple holes need to be moved. But the top case actually would sit down on it and fit. So that was first pass.
How sturdy is the case so far compared to the... I mean, given it's 3D printed, maybe there's a little bit of brittleness to it, or just curious how it would compare.
Yeah, does it have more flex in the actual case, or?
It does have a little bit more flex in the actual case with the cutout, but understand with the cutout, I've got sections of the bottom that will give it more stiffness when those are actually printed if I go to do a complete case. The walls and the sides are fairly thick. I think I did 2.5 millimeters. That makes a fairly stiff case.
You said that you didn't have the top case done yet. One of the challenges I see with 3D printing, and maybe you can comment on this, is on the top cases where the screw holes are, right? Screws going in and out over time, in and out over time. How do you think the plastic is going to work with that, given that it's 3D? Are there any special considerations for things like screw posts?
Generally, your screw posts have to be bigger than injection molded. Injection molded, you look at the CoCos, there's a lot of angles, because those angles allow, as you guys may already know, but our listeners may not know, allow that molded part, when it's cool, to pop out of the mold easier. So there's a little bit of angles on almost all sides. You rarely see a completely 90-degree type angle in a molded case. 3D printing, it doesn't matter if your sides are straight, that's fine. But it's layered, and generally the infill is not 100% solid. So make a post that's going to hold your screw solid, and to last, you're going to make it bigger. The other thing that I'm hoping to do with the CoCo 3 case in particular is to go away from the screw and instead go to a bolt and use a brass insert.
When you think about it, you don't have to do exactly what the CoCo 3 case is doing in terms of screws, right? All you need to do is you need to honor where the motherboard goes and the back plane. You can get creative, and you can redesign how the top and the bottom come together and connect. So I think that's certainly an interesting part of this project is, like you said, with the brass ring idea, is how do you improve upon the design, keep the spirit of the case, but at the same time make compromises based on the fact that this is not injection molded, and still keep the integrity of the case.
With the amount of time in plastic talk is the reason we spun off to the Raspberry Pi so quickly, because I was going to do the full CoCo first, but with the amount of time it takes to print a full-size one, and every time you get a different printer, it behaves a little bit differently how it does the plastic. But I'm still in that learning process. If I'm going to need a replica CoCo case because I want to do that, I'm probably willing to pay more for a full-size CoCo case than what I would be willing to spend for a Raspberry Pi project case, even though that case is fairly big. Alan had a certain price point in mind he was hoping I could make, and I said, well, I can't make that in a full price point you're talking about in a full-size CoCo case. Anything happens in that, I'm out too much plastic. The cost of a bad case is going to be too high for me to absorb the cost of it. The Raspberry Pi version that's using the keyboard or the Pi 400 is approximately 80% size of the CoCo, and at least in some dimensions. Height, probably definitely less than that. But it's still a pretty good size case. And I think it looks pretty close to the CoCo, but it takes a lot less time for me to print and get all the items worked out.
Just to interject a little bit with your discussion about the size of the part and the cost of having a part go bad. Just for our listeners that may not be that familiar with 3D printing, if you decide in the middle of you're already printing something down as you've got a quarter of an inch built up or whatever, and you decide, I'm going to just stop and come back and do this later. You can't do that, right?
Well, they have some features in some of the newer printers that will help you to do that a little better than what they did, but they're going to still leave it a bump or spot. Understand that the CoCo top case is taking well over a half of a reel of plastic. If you are misjudge how much plastic you're on it, you run out, then you have the cost of a half a reel of plastic to it. Yeah. That can add up quickly. So I have to do something that I can afford to make because I really need to sell at least enough of these to pay back my printer, break even. It keeps the wife happy, and I can do other projects as long as I keep most of my projects paying for themselves, breaking even.
What do you use for modeling software? Or talk to us about the process of okay, you've got a CoCo case. How do you go from that to getting it into a model to be printed?
The 3D printers like to do things in the metric system. So I have a metric ruler and a digital caliper that runs out to 6 inches, so it helps me measure a lot of things there. And then I try to go and get the measurements as close as I can do to put the different pieces in there. Currently, I'm using a open source piece of software called FreeCAD. It's a parametric modeling, which means I can go in and enter, how long I want a line. And so I have to do my measurements and do the conversions into the CAD and to the 3D drawing. As I do more of these, I get better at it. The CAD software has been updated over the years I've used it. It's gotten better.
What are the things you're targeting?
Well, the targeting points, we wanted to enclose a Raspberry Pi keyboard, a CoCo style case, and be able to bring the connectors out to the back. I'm creating an open panel in the back that will be able to change what goes in that panel. If I'm using a Raspberry Pi 4 and not a Pi 400, now I may want a different back panel on it. So I'm trying to make it flexible for people to be able to use. No one size is going to fit all. And,
so you're anticipating the use with CoCo Pi?
Yes.
Do you have a target price at this point?
On the 3, I'm not sure yet. I don't really set that. We have a target price that I'm aiming toward, for the Raspberry Pi version. And since it is a lot less complicated, we may hit that. Alan had hoped it would be at $50 or less.
Basically, it's like a dock for the Pi 400.
Yeah, you're screwed in. Okay, you're not just going to be attached once you put it in there. The 400 will set in there. It will screw in, and it's semi-permanent by the fact that you can unscrew it, but you can pretend it's your CoCo,
Sure.
Are you going to have one to show here soon, or?
Yes, I'm going to have one to show pretty soon.
So what are you looking for? Do you want people to join the project? What do you want them to help with? Or do you just looking for users or customers? Or
Well, basically, people can provide some feedback if they want to hit just on the regular Facebook CoCo group, I think or the CoCo Pi group. That's fine. Watch for it, once I get a full one, which should be, fairly soon, I'm thinking. There's a possibility that even this week I may have a full top case print as a test.
There may be people out there who maybe have a top case cracked and they need that replaced, or as opposed to a bottom or maybe a bottom. Something you might want to think about is if you preserve the original design, you could mate one half to an existing older injection molded version, right?
Yes, this is one of the things that was with the full size. A full-size case kind of forked off the Raspberry Pi case because, again, wanting to keep a price point down there that was easier for people to afford. That was my goal, is at least have a version that did fit for fit. I am hoping to have that option available.
It'd be nice to have a serious option out there. I know I cringe every time I see somebody posting on Facebook or whatever, and I was looking for a broken CoCo that they can take the guts out of and do whatever with.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the things that motivated me. And I have to be honest, bragging right. Sorry, I've got a little bit of ego sometimes. I generally, it's kept in control most of the time. But, yeah, I would really kind of like to have the bragging rights. I did a CoCo 3 case.
Well, the long term on this project, what are your long-term goals? Anything out in the future or any reach goals?
Well, reach goals is if this thing would pay for itself and make a profit.
Are you still the go-to guy for everyone that comes up with a project for the CoCo that wants a case designed? Is he still taking those kind of requests or whatever?
I do get some requests on stuff. Ed is printing cases for most of his stuff, so I'm not doing those. So I have been doing some other stuff. I got a request to do a Radio Shack MPI, to do one of the doors for it. Somebody needs a replacement.
What about doing an MPI switch for the older MPI?
I have one designed for that. And those would make great little items to print on the resin printer. For one of the models, I do have the switch.
So we can plan on seeing you at CoCo Fest then?
Well, I'm planning on it. Hopefully we'll have it. But I think this is an exciting project. Again, thanks go out to Alan Huffman for providing the Raspberry Pi stuff to get this part of the project moving a lot quicker. Of course, to my wife to putting up with my craziness.
So, definitely. Thanks. It's good to hear that you got this project going. It sounds like some potentially good things happening to fill a need that is difficult to fill otherwise, until the point where people get to where they're actually crafting things out of plastic, which we're kind of there with 3D printing, but,
Yeah, there's a lot of restrictions you have to work with and so on. Appreciate you guys for inviting me to share this project with you.
It's great to have you here.
We appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for joining us, John.
Yes, well, you're welcome.
Dude, you have to see this.
What is it?
It's the Proto EEPROM CC from Prototech. I can program 2716, 2732, and 2732A EEPROMs.
So my EEPROM burner can do that.
This one has 4K of RAM, so you can create and debug your RAM image before you burn your ROM.
Wow.
It's fully powered by the color computer, no wall warts or cords to get tangled. It just plugs into your cartridge slot.
Nice.
You can program the RAM or ROM directly from BASIC or assembly language.
Where can I get one?
It's just $149.95 from Prototech.
That's a bargain.
The Proto EEPROM CC from Prototech, Boulder, Colorado. Does your color computer know what time it is? Well, now it can with the RTC10 real-time clock. The RTC10 is a quartz-based time-date clock contained in a compact ROM case. The included 2-year-plus replaceable battery keeps time accurate when the computer is off and even when the cartridge is unplugged. It can be used with or without a multi-slot unit. The included software allows you to set the clock as well as display time and date in the upper right corner of the video screen. The RTC10 makes it simple to access the time and date with just a few basic peaks. It's compatible with any 16K or greater extended or non-extended color computer. The RTC10 comes completely assembled, tested, and ready to plug in and use. The RTC10 real-time clock. Only $89 from Custom Computer Products. Goshen, New York.
All right, CoCo Maniacs, assemble. This is John Linville. I'm here to welcome you to, I reckon this is a tech segment. It's a bit of a review of a software package, but it's got some technical aspects. The package that we're going to talk about is Color Pilot. Pilot, in this case, stands for Programmed Inquiry, Learning, or Teaching. It's a programming language for writing little applications for the CoCo. It's a high-level programming language, so it claims. Pilot was created by a John A. Starkweather in the early 60s. It was assisted by Dr. Marty Camp and associates in the medical school at the University of California, San Francisco. And they worked on something that became known as, or is now known as, quote-unquote, Core Pilot. That's all capitals. It's an acronym, PILOT. Or also known as Pilot 1973. Pilot is a programming language for computer-assisted instruction, which is kind of an old term. You don't hear it much these days. I think they're kind of falling out of favor, which is kind of funny because you think it'd be perfect for today, right? Especially when all the kids haven't been in school for a damn year. So Pilot is what is referred to as an author or authoring language, which means it's flexible and can do a lot of things, including it could be used to write what would be called an authoring system, whereas an authoring system is more of a canned application or appliance, so not as flexible, but, could be more productive in some ways. Anyway, so it's an authoring language, not a system. So Pilot is often compared to another language that you might be familiar with called Logo. Logo, of course, is known to many people that were children in the 70s or late 70s. The language where you push a turtle around the screen to make graphics. So both Pilot and Logo kind of were intended to be used for, early computer instruction or whatever, often used with children. Both languages are what we'll call imperative style, meaning, do this, then do that at a fairly low level of how the computer works, rather than just defining how you want things to be and letting the computer figure it out. It's pretty common for languages of this vintage, at least. Some versions of Pilot did include turtle graphics, similar to what you would think of as in Logo, and there were versions of Logo, I think, that did not include turtle graphics. So turtle graphics by itself, while more often associated with Logo, is not, strictly speaking, a signature of either one of these languages or any of them at all. Anyway, so beyond the association with education and children, and maybe some people thinking of turtle graphics, the languages really aren't that much alike. The Logo is a derivative of Lisp. It does a lot of Lisp processing, or at least most versions do. It's a whole different kind of paradigm. So you see them kind of lumped together, but they're really two different languages, not that closely related. So in some of the history writings, you'll see some people say many people worked on extensions to Core Pilot. Remember, that's the 1973 version of Pilot. If you get too close to the works of Cariati and Gerhold, at least, they say most successful and most powerful of these extensions were developed at Western Washington University. So a little bit of gilding the lily or whatever, but working at Western Washington University were this Mr. Larry Cariati and Dr. George Gerhold. They defined what became known as Common Pilot. Cariati and Gerhold, they were the original developers of what's called Common Pilot, and Color Pilot is based on Common Pilot. They've added features for color and sound, that sort of thing, and then it says it was without features beyond the CoCo's capacity, which I didn't find any strict reference to what they've actually left out. So you'll have to try it out and figure it out and let me know what's been left out from Common Pilot in Color Pilot. Anyway, these two guys worked together a lot. They formed a company called MicroPie. I guess they formed it. They were part of a company called MicroPie. Seems to have been headquartered in Lummi Island, Washington. That's Lummi Island. So MicroPie produced versions of Pilot for a wide variety of microcomputers. 6800, which that's a CPU, not a computer. So I'm assuming that they targeted MIC-Bug or something similar. Anyway, so 6800. North Star, which was an S100 bus machine. Say CPM, targeting an operating system. Helios, haven't heard of it, don't know much about it. TRS-80, I think in this instance they were talking about the Z80 based machines. Interdata, heard of it, don't know much about it. Then they listed Pascal as a target, which so I assume they've got a version of Pilot they've written in Pascal, and so then you could compile it in Pascal and run it on whatever the Pascal compiler is for. Anyway, so these guys, theoretically, they know quite a bit about Pilot, hopefully. You find plenty of references to these two guys, usually together, and in reference to, mostly to Pilot, sometimes to Logo. Just an interesting note, Cariati and Gerhold and MicroPie, they also produced Color Logo and also Super Logo for the color computer. And so these were actually implementations of Logo. So we mentioned that before, how Logo and Pilot seem to have some sort of association, even though the languages themselves really aren't that much alike. So I don't know what led to this, if this, why they were doing Logo work for the color computer, but they did. And if you look at the Color Logo language and then Color Pilot, you'll see some similarities in the way the user interface works. So, for example, they both offer an immediate mode and an edit or run mode. So they let you edit your stored programs, or you can do it in immediate mode. You can type commands and have them happen, as you type them in. It's kind of like you would in BASIC. So they kind of have a similar feel to them. Also, they have a similar disk format. So both of them, the disk versions of Color Logo and Color Pilot, don't really use the normal DEC-B file system. They kind of take over the disk and do what they want to with it, and happen to do it so in a similar way. And that's could be a little wrong about this. I don't have all the details. I experimented with this months ago. You had so many slots to save programs in, and once you picked a slot, it kind of used that as to pick a sector on the disk and and wrote the programs out there. So you're kind of limited in size or whatever. But you can sort of tell that they were both created by the same place. All right, moving on. Talking about the pilot language itself. So, as I said, pilot is an imperative language. You have to take charge and figure out how to implement an algorithm, not just defining the problem as you would in so-called declarative languages. It's similar in structure to BASIC and Fortran. The keywords in Pilot are single characters, many of which have single character modifiers, which can either change the command itself, similar to adding a parameter, or in some cases they can be part of the control flow. So what's the syntax like? So a line of Pilot code contains the following syntax elements. So if we're going from left to right, an optional label, a command letter, then an optional Y for yes or N for no. That's mostly used with after a match command. Anyway, so an optional conditional expression in parentheses. So you can have a command that only happens if if X is greater than 4, for example, or whatever's appropriate for your program. Anyway, after the parentheses, you can have a colon, and then an operand or multiple operands limited by commas. So again, it kind of depends on the command you're using. A label can also be done in a line not followed by the code. So you basically just have a label on a line. Syntax for a label is an asterisk. So this is a star followed by an identifier. So an alphanumeric string with an alphabetic initial character. And so those are used kind of like line numbers for control flow or whatever. So let's talk about a few commands. I'm not going to cover every command by any means. We're just going to give you a flavor of what the commands look like. So, for example, there's T. T types text and variables on the screen. And so T is kind of the equivalent of a basic print. If you're going to do a hello world style command, it'd be T:\hello world, and then run it, and it would type hello world. Very simple. Okay, and then you have A for accepting inputs from the keyboard, and so that's a lot like an input in BASIC. M stands for match, matches words or phrases against the results of the most recent accept command. Typically, you'd have a T command followed by an A command, and then an M that would then check for a yes or no, for example. That's kind of like a print and then input, and then if such and such is something, that's what the equivalent BASIC program would sort of be like. Okay, so there's a J command, jumps execution to a label. So that's a lot like a go-to in BASIC. And then there's a U command, uses a label procedure, which is a lot like a go sub in BASIC. So a little, subtle difference there between a go-to or go sub is the same kind of difference between J and a U. All right, C computes the value of a variable. So basically, if you want to do some math with a variable, you use a C command, and then R allows remarks to be added to a procedure. That's kind of like a rem statement in BASIC. And then E for ends a program or procedure, so that could be either like an end at the end of a BASIC program or a return at the end of a go sub procedure. And so like I said, it's not an exhaustive list, but kind of gives you an idea for the terseness of each line or the commands in the line. It can be good or bad. It keeps the program short and less ambiguous usually. But, it also can be confusing if you forget what the commands mean. So, like I said, there were some extensions for the CoCo. So there's a G command for graphics, which there are various graphics modes available. I think there's 8 different ones. They all display on a virtual 256 by 192 screen. where the coordinates are given as 0 to 255 for X and 0 to 191 for Y. This is similar to the way the stuff is done with P-mode graphics under Extended Color Basic. But in this case, 00 is the lower left corner of the screen, and 255, 191 is the upper right. So it's more like a math class and less like what they do with the P-mode graphics. There are commands for dots, lines, and box, drawing dots, lines, and boxes. So you can put up a screen as part of whatever you're trying to, whatever instruction you're giving or whatever, you can actually draw. Now, these are not turtle-style graphics commands. There's some other pilots, like the Atari Pilot, and I think some of the Apple Pilot, do have turtle-style graphics, which have the commands like, forward and right and that sort of stuff. These are not that. These are like, draw a line from here to there, draw a box, and start it here and with these parameters, that sort of thing. Good, better, I don't know, but haven't dealt with it enough, but, worth a shot. See, there are different colors available via the G with the M modifier. You'll have to check the manual for all the details there, but you can use the 4 color modes, which oddly enough are, they're not 1256 by 192, and they're 128 by 192, but just like P-mode graphics, I guess they'll scale your coordinates to the actual screen size. So you can also plot text on the screens, and it looks like there's 2 sizes. You can do normal size text and large text. I guess it's just plotting the graphics. Moving on, there's also a CoCo extension. There's a couple commands related to sound. It's basically the S for sound with the 2 different modifiers. One's for starting and one's for start. I think it's SS for sound start, and SH for sound halt. Check the manual before you use that. Anyway, those are like doing audio on and motor on under basic, so it just will play the tape. So that you can see where that might be helpful with computer-aided instruction. You could have a tape that has somebody talking on it, and then you could run the program and start the tape and have them talk through it, and then you could do a little quiz as part of the program. One interesting thing, they do have a V for video command, and V takes a parameter, a string, where the bytes of the string are actually machine code. So this would be a way to sneak machine code into your pilot program. And so why is it called video? So it says in the manual it's intended to control videotape, video disc, and various other specialized interfaces. So I don't know so video sounds like it was named kind of for hysterical reasons or historical reasons. But realistically, if you did want to sneak in some machine code to your pilot program, this would be where you do it. How well it works, I don't know. But again, please try. Let me see your program and then tell me how it worked or how well you liked it, or whatever, any special tricks you had to do to get your machine code into place or whatever. There's not a lot of info in the manual about working with machine code, so you might be at the mercy of going to do some disassembly yourself or whatever. But I hope somebody will try. That'd be cool. All right, resources. So first and foremost, the Color Pilot manual is available at colorcomputerarchive.com. The manual is what was available for the tape version. There claims to be a disc version on Color Computer Archive. I'm not 100% sure what the story is there, because I couldn't find any reference to a disc version ever having been for sale. It could just be my catalog foo is not very good. So I don't know. I'm not sure there actually was ever a disc version, but it's what claims to be a disc version in the archive that will, like I said, operate similarly to what the disc version of the color logo does. So you can at least play with it. The cassette version sometimes pops up on eBay. I've never seen the disc version, so I don't know. But I've got a a copy, or I might have 2 copies of the cassette version. Comes in one of those nice brown padded binders that Tandy put some of their software out in. It comes with a tape, of course, and the manual's pretty good. Covers a lot of detail on programming or whatever. Like I said, I haven't exactly burned up the keyboard doing pilot programming, so I can't verify that it's helpful. But it looks good. It looks helpful. It made me feel like I knew what I was talking about. So, give it a try. Let me know. So more resources. There are a couple of tutorials from a magazine that's not specific to Color Pilot in this case. There probably are some available. Well, I don't have a good reference for them, but that are specific to Color Pilot. But if you look in the Creative Computing magazine, November of 1982, the article by Mike Smith called Pilot Tutorial 1. And then in December 1982, Creative Computing by Mike Smith, there's a Pilot Tutorial 2. And so you can get those off of the archive.org. Check them out. Gives you a pretty good overview of programming in Pilot in general. Like I said, this is a Color Pilot is an implementation of Common Pilot, so that should go a long way for you. Probably does not cover the video command, but I think you can probably figure it out. All right, and so the final resource I'd recommend, this out-of-print book, and I don't think it's available right now, like at Amazon. Sometimes you'll find it. I got a copy sometime, within the last year or so. Book by John Starkweather, so that's the guy who invented Pilot in the first place. Published in 1985, called User's Guide to Pilot, published by Prentice Hall. It's got an ISBN number 978-0-13-937755-6. So if you can find a copy of that book, it seems pretty thorough and helpful. Like I said, that a lot of books for Pilot and some of the other computers, including especially the 8-bit Ataris, some of those books seem to be available, and at least for fundamental Pilot programming, I think it will still be helpful. So, give it a try. Somebody become an expert on Color Pilot, and then tell me everything I've said wrong here. I would love that. Feel free to send in an audio feedback. Anyway, that's about all I've got. So, just in conclusion, Color Pilot, it's a well-documented programming language for the CoCo. It is an alternative programming language, so it's not BASIC, it's not Forth, it's not assembly language. It's not even Pascal or Basic 09. It's something else to program in. It seems like it should be compatible with other implementations of Common Pilot, which existed for the Atari 8-bits, the Apple II, I think Commodore 64, some other machines. So if you happen to be somebody who's had experience with Pilot, I'd love for you to give it a try and let me know how it compares. And let me know if you can get your Pilot programs from other computers running on Color Pilot, or vice versa. That'd be cool to know. It looks to me like Color Pilot is suitable for many command response style of program user interfaces. So obviously computer-aided instruction is what it was designed for. So for any kind of learning or testing you may want to do. I saw where someone wrote a quiz show style response for documenting inside jokes on on CoCo Talk. This probably would have been a great language for doing that in. Anyway, somebody give it a try. Again, let us know. Also, I was thinking that because of this design for this textual interaction, that maybe this would be a good language for implementing interactive fiction style, so adventure style of games or whatever. I think that'd be cool. So, what do you think? Let me know. Send me some feedback. Tell me if you think this sucked or if this is a good thing or whatever. And above all, if you do try out Color Pilot, please let me know how it goes for you. And let me know if this talk was either inspirational or helpful or somehow not. All right, well, that's it for now. So, CoCo forever, and keep the CoCo mania going. All right, thanks.
It looks good for OS 9. We're coming forward with the config command. It all looks good. Roger, CHX2/D0/commands. I've got a blowout in the CoCo 3. Reseat the Gibby. It's no good. I've got garbage on the screen. Correction. Cycle power for 30 seconds. Both disk lights are on. She's breaking up.
The Color Computer, 6809, a computer barely alive. Gentlemen, we can rebuild it. We have the technology. We have the capability to make the world's first advanced color computer. The CoCo 4 will be that computer. Better than it was before. Better, stronger, faster.
You know what's going on again at Radio Shack? That's right, honey. It's Tandy's Sweet System Sale. You get a Tandy Color Computer 3 with a dual FD501 disk drive system and your choice of either a DMP105 printer or a DCM212 modem for just $599. Most folks' $599 deal is not a system, honey.
These Apple disk drives are just $5.99.
That's not a system. Radio Shack is the place for a full system. Tandy's Sweet System Sale. Come and get it while it lasts, because it will not last long.
Love that CoCo from Tandy.
Well, we meet again inside Neil's Corner on episode 69 of the CoCo Crew Podcast. This month, I'm going to review yet again another brand new game for your CoCo 3. Who would have ever guessed I'd be reviewing this many new games for the CoCo? I certainly didn't. A few weeks ago, Jamie Chow posted a game he has been working on called Space Bandits. It is a remake of the game Space Invaders, and a very good remake, I might add. What makes this game even cooler is that Jamie used Richard Godekin's Dino Sprite game engine to create this game. From the moment I loaded this game, I was very impressed. The title screen, you have a couple options to choose from, such as monitor type, composite or RGB, and you can select sound options. So you can have no sound, CoCo 3 internal sound, and this is the cool part. You can use the Orchestra 90 sound cartridge. I thought that was cool to see. To start the game, you press a key or joystick button. I, of course, chose the joystick, because who really wants to play an arcade game using the keyboard? When the game started, I couldn't believe how nice the graphics and smooth animations were. It's definitely faster paced than the original Space Invaders, which in my opinion I prefer. You can fly through the levels faster and it doesn't drag on and get boring. I also want to mention how incredible the background graphics are. It really suits the game. Sound effects are also very well done and they do not get annoying. The difficulty level I'd say is spot on. It's not too difficult where you never want to play the game again, but it's not too easy where you get bored and have no challenge. The replay value is huge on this one. Furthest I've gotten so far is the 5th round. It's definitely one of those games where you keep wanting to play it over and over to beat your high score. Maybe we can have some kind of a high score challenge on the internet. I had the pleasure of meeting Jamie at CoCo Fest back in 2018, and let me tell you, he put on a top-notch seminar talking about his game design using Richard's Dino Sprite game engine. I noticed Jamie mentions he plans to keep working on this game in the future, adding extra stuff and more polish. I'll definitely keep a lookout for that, but in my opinion, it's great the way it is now. Well, now you have another high-ticket game to play on your CoCo 3. As for memory requirements, I'm pretty sure it requires 512K because of the Dino Sprite game engine. However, I could be wrong, and it might work on a stock 128K. But I'm sure most of you all have 512K in your CoCo 3 by now, if not more. If you want to try this game out, and I really think you should, the file can be downloaded from Jamie's GitHub page, and I'll make sure to have the link in the show notes. If you're lazy, Jamie has even compiled a DSK image that you can download directly, so you don't even have to build it. Well, until next month, retro forever, and happy CoCo gaming.
Big B Pro Quarterback. the incredible new football simulation for the color computer. Pass, run, kick. You call the plays. Compete with a friend or challenge the computer. Pro Quarterback is just $16.95 and includes versions for systems with extended color basic and non-extended color basic. Experience the thrill of pro football with Pro Quarterback from Big B Software, Broomfield, Colorado.
Well, it's that time. We have reached the end of episode 69 on the CoCo Crew Podcast. As usual, I'd like to thank our host, John Linville, for procuring all the news items each month, Mike Rowan for painstakingly editing the podcast and creating those fun commercials, Boise Pete, our CoCo historian. He remembers it, so you don't have to. I'd like to thank John Strong for giving us some of your time to record an interview with you. Last but not least, all of you who listen and support us each month. Feel free to send us your feedback. We really do like to hear from you. Until next month, happy CoCoing and retro forever.
It's a blast from the past.
Please listen carefully.
CoCo.
Dance like there's no tomorrow.
What is this crazy rock and roll music anyway? It's a blast from the past.
Dance, dance, dance. Dance, dance, dance.
CoCo.